I think back to the community that I represent and some of the most awful, egregious actions were happening day in, day out, 24/7 in my communities. We didn't have murders. We didn't have anybody shot in their car or shot in their back, but we had atrocities nonetheless. Every morning when there was school, I would get up. I'd get up before the sun came up. It would be dark as night. And I'd start putting on layer after layer after layer of clothes. And it probably took me a good 4 or 5 weeks before I figured exactly which layers I needed to stay warm. Because every morning I would get up and I would go patrol the schools in my district. It wasn't always the same school. It wasn't always the same district. But I got out there and I watched. I watched so that those kids got to school safely. I watched the bus stops because we knew that those ICE agents were circling bus stops. One day I was at one of the schools and I was standing helping kids walk across the street, and I noticed an ICE vehicle go by. And after a while you can pretty much identify them, a dark vehicle, dark windows, no license plate, but you could see that really eerie light from a computer on the front seat. And it went by once, and then it came back again and kind of slowed down when it got near me, and I thought, oh, maybe they're just stopping to let those kids cross. And then they came around a third time and then rolled down the passenger side, and the guy looked right at me and he said, "Oh, good morning, Mary. Nice to see you out here," in a very menacing tone. How did he know who I was? How did he know who I was? You don't think that sent shivers of terror down my spine? My name was on that list of the murderer who shot Melissa Hortman and her husband, who shot John Hoffman and his family. And to have somebody do that to me, it scared the heck out of me. But that did not stop me because we kept getting calls from the public. We kept getting requests from the schools in our districts, from Northeast Minneapolis all the way up University Avenue, all the way up Central Avenue. And it wasn't just the big regular public schools, it was the charter schools. It was the parochial schools that started asking for help. And we stepped up and we did that. We made sure that those kids were safe. And why would we have to do that? Because we saw all kinds of things happening out there in our communities. Specifically at our school, we saw enforcement vehicles and ICE agents near schools looking into the schools with binoculars. We saw individuals wearing masks, dressed in camouflage and military clothing, carrying weapons visible to the students and the staff and the families, deploying chemical irritants. And some of you might shake your head in here like maybe that really didn't happen. But believe me, it did. Just because you weren't there doesn't mean it didn't happen. Unmarked vehicles circling buildings. Agents following and pulling over and boxing in schools and municipal buses. Agents waiting at bus stops. Detaining staff on their way to work, asking for identification and proof of citizenship. A teacher told me about how they stopped her, made her get out of her car, did not identify them, and had weapons pulled on her because she passed them too quickly. And they said that she cut them off on the road. Those agents detained minors without their parents, taking them to detention centers. And that included students who were just walking home from school through their own neighborhoods. Agents followed kids home, targeting the homes that they would go into. And of course, we have the story of Liam Ramos and his father. His father, with all the legal documentation for them to be there, followed home from his son's preschool, pulled over in his driveway with weapons pulled. And the agents making that little boy go up to the door and try to get that door open so that they could get in there. Schools across the metro and the suburbs describe significant impacts on attendance. Some schools decreased by 50%. One school shared that learning had essentially stopped. The shift to online learning was impacting our students' engagement. It had negative effects on their social emotional well-being, along with all the teachers. Schools had to cancel field trips, sporting events, outdoor recess, after-school events, and even a lot of the senior trips. One child was asked, one child openly said, "Why is this happening to us? We are citizens. I was born here." And yet their family was being targeted. And so members, when other members say to us, nobody wants to see the chaos, we don't want to see that chaos either. We don't ever want to see that chaos. But I'm not convinced it's gone. I am not convinced it's gone because it is still happening in my district. They are still pulling random cars over. I heard this story the other day about a person that was pulled over by our local police. And when asked why they were being pulled over, the officer said, "Oh, we thought we saw a kid in the back that wasn't strapped in." And when he looked in, there was no child in that vehicle. So the terror continues, and I don't believe it's going to end because we just heard that there is a quota for those agents to find 3,000 arrests every single day across this nation. It has to stop. And this bill is one way that we can start working to make this end. And I cannot tell you how proud I am of the Minnesotans that stood up, of our school superintendents, Zaina Senvik and Brenda Lewis, who finally said, enough is enough. We are not going to stop. We are not going to be quiet. We are going to protect our children, and that's what we are here today. So members, I implore you to vote green on this bill.